Welcome to the 1516 Biology Curriculum Overview. I am Erica Ingram, your presenter. We are covering today Unit 13, Animal Systems, or as we know it, Body Systems. As we begin to dig into our instructional focus document, TRS has allotted 7 days, which is equitable to GPI's denumbered days. The unit begins on April 7th and it runs through April 15th. Our processing skills are in black, which are a number of skills utilizing reading, writing, investigations, comparison, descriptive, investigations throughout this unit. We also have a number of supporting standards that are being spiraled back into the unit from previous unit that we've covered in biology. There is one readiness standard covered throughout this entire unit, which is 10A. Now, as we look at prior to this unit, the prior to this unit is going back over everything we've covered pretty much from the beginning of the school year up until now. It's also encompassing concepts from 7th grade. Students learn the main functions of the human body systems. They didn't really go into the interactions of the body systems, but they understood what was the function of the body system and a few of the organs that are within those body systems. Prior to the units in biology, students learned about the different types of molecules of the cells that make up the living organisms. So they went through the whole hierarchy of an organism, all the way from a molecule up to now we're on the organism or the organ systems that make up the organism. We've covered several cellular processes, including energy conversions, cellular transport, gene expression, genomic inheritance, meiosis, and mitosis. All of these processes are relevant to understanding how body systems function. So, as we dig into during this unit, so as we begin to go into our explore activities and the different concepts that students will be investigating, we want to make sure we are incorporating a number of hands-on activities, not just drawing or coloring, which are all beneficial to some point, but definitely having them use those processing and critical thinking skills using labs, looking at microscopes, looking under the microscopes, looking at specialized cells, different tissues of different animals, and looking at those organs that you can see and discussing those organs that make up these different animal systems and how these animal systems interact to perform the specific functions. And that's really the biggest thing, looking at how the organ systems interact to maintain homeostasis, regulation, nutrient absorption, reproduction, and defense from injury or illness. And those are really the main focuses of this unit. In addition to others, we want to look at the characteristics and functions of systems within the animal kingdom to systems found in other taxonomic groups. So doing a little bit of comparison and contrasting. And don't forget about using those the previous unit over viruses and bacteria, looking at how those microorganisms are relevant and what effects they may have on the human body. So this is a pretty all-encompassing unit to just bring in and connect everything that we've covered through this year and understand how it's relevant to seeing the big picture. Now we're at the body system, which makes up the organism, and it's understanding that big picture. Now as we go from there, just a note that the students will be applying this knowledge of body systems to their own investigations as they begin to develop their own experimental designs when we begin the next unit after STAR. I really won't focus too much on our district level data due to the data from 14-15 not being available for the Q4 summative. It was not a complete set of data for our district, so that information has not been put into this table, but you can look at the supporting and readiness standards that were assessed in 13-14 and look at how we performed. So there is definitely room for improvement. So as we look at our data for the STAR exam from 2012 to 2015, last year all of the SEs were assessed except for one, which was 11C. And I have highlighted in green and red the SEs that were assessed each year, so we can definitely expect to see those SEs again this year. Looking at our performance over these SEs for 5B, there was increased improvement, very good. We reached 74%, so we're expecting to go even higher than 74% on 5B this year. 6G, we improved very much so from 12 to 15, now at 71%. We dropped down in 8C. In 10A, we've been pretty stagnant over the past 3 years. 10C, we dropped down from 2014 from 78% to 60%. 11A, we have steadily increased, and there was a pretty big jump, a 17% jump from 2014 to 2015 over 11A. And looking at 11B, that wasn't assessed in 13 and 14, it was definitely assessed in 15, which there was a pretty significant jump, 13% from 2012 to 2015 with 72%. And last year, 11C was not assessed, but looking at from 12 to 13, there was an increase, but we dropped back down in 14. So definitely want to be sure we are focusing on all the SEs, but definitely look at these SEs that have been assessed each year. So over the next few slides, we're going to look at some STAR questions and see how the state has interpreted the SE, how the state has broken down the SE and developed questions. And looking at 10A, 10A is focusing on the interactions among the organ systems, their functions of regulation, nutrient absorption, reproduction, and defense from injury or illness in animals. And as you go through the questions, you will see that the questions are relevant to certain pieces of the SE. So when we look at this question, it talks about an ovum moving from an ovary into the uterine tube. And anytime we start seeing those type of vocabulary terms, ovum, ovary, uterus, we know we're talking about reproduction. So this SE is assessing the reproduction interactions that are occurring among systems and the function of reproduction in this question. The correct answer to the question was C, in which 62% of the students in the state got that question correct, and it is again a readiness standard, which is also dual coded with a processing skill 3B. And as we look at 2014 question over 10A, what two human systems work together to provide body cells with a constant supply of oxygen while removing carbon dioxide waste products? And this question is specifically talking about the body systems that are interacting to perform the functions of regulating the flow of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and that how the exchange occurs within the body. So that question is specifically focusing on regulation. And in a 2013 question, we're talking about in this question two body systems that are interacting to help this rabbit outrun a pursuing coyote. And based off of the SE describing the interactions between the systems, what type of function are we describing? And in this one, we're talking about the defense from injury or illness in an animal. So again, as you go through and look at different STAR questions, please notice how the SE is being broken down in STAR questions and how the state is interpreting that SE. Now looking at 10C, we have a question. The SE, focuses on analyzing the levels of organization in biological systems and relating the levels to each other and to the whole system. And question 18 from a 2014 assessment says, which of the following functions at the same organizational level as the kidney in the human excretory system? So we're talking about the excretory system. The specific organ is the kidney, and I want to know, out of all of these answer choices, which of these are on the same organizational level. So which one of these are an organ? And the skeletal is a system. The epithelial tissue is tissue. And a squamous cell is a cell. So the answer here is H. Our urinary bladder is an organ. And 82% of the students in the state got that answer correct. And looking at 11A, the students will have to investigate and analyze how organisms, populations, and communities respond to external factors. And here we're talking about feedback mechanisms. You have your positive and negative feedback mechanisms that occur. So during this diagram, there is an internal feedback mechanism that maintains blood calcium for homeostasis, excuse me. And so as you go through and you read the question, it states here that homeostasis is when the blood calcium level is at 10 milligrams, okay? Well, in the question it says that the blood level is at 8 milligrams, which means it's below the homeostatic level. And so what is happening to happen in order to get the body to maintain homeostasis and get back to a level of 10 milligrams? And so as you go through, the students will have to analyze this diagram and go through and understand what is happening, and then relate it back to the answer choices and see if all of these things are happening or one of these things are happening in order to increase the blood calcium level. And as you go through and read through it, you can see that each one of these components are occurring. So the correct answer was D, in which 77% of the students got that answer correct. So for Unit 13, PA1, there is no modified PA, so the PA stays the same, which will be done on the 7th day in the lesson cycle. Our evaluate day, and the delivery method can change. Students may not have to create a graphic organizer, but an example would be from the question we just looked at in 11A with the diagram, understanding and explaining the interactions of the different systems and how they work together and how they occur to maintain homeostasis. So that is an example of what you can do. But again, the delivery method can change, but the content has to stay the same. And I just put one SE here for this standard, which was the readiness standard, since we only had one, and gave you a bit of the specificity for this readiness standard. And as you go through and look through, it really breaks down how that SE is being assessed, the different types of interactions, the different systems, and how each function is relative to specific systems. So it's a great resource and tool to use as you go through and unpack your PA, breaking down and looking at those specificities as well. Now, when you get to your explain portion of the unit, the students, you want the students to be able to answer these questions, these essential questions. If they are unable to answer those essential questions in your direct teach time, you definitely want to go back and address some misconceptions that they may be having that's prohibiting them from answering these questions correctly. And usually those misconceptions may be that the students are not understanding how the body systems are interrelated, how they depend on one another, how they influence homeostasis, how one system can't function without the other, how microorganisms are not always bad, but they can be good, and how they do disrupt the health of animals. So it's very important to go back and show them the big picture. If they're not understanding completely, as you will be able to see through how they answer these essential questions. Again, we have key content vocabulary that you want to introduce throughout your explore activities, as well as introducing it in your explain portion. And real quickly, on the secondary shifted resources Dropbox are a number of different activities that are available for you to utilize. You can use this article that goes through and breaks down different negative feedback mechanisms, the positive feedback mechanisms, and how they're used to maintain homeostasis and what happens which system is occurring when the body is out of homeostasis. It's a good explore activity. You can do a lot of things with that. You can have the students to give you two body systems based off of what they've read and explain their interaction or what's going on, or if give them a scenario. If this happens, then what type of mechanism is happening, what will need to happen in order to fix that issue. So that are a lot of different ways you can use this article. Here is a really great elaborate activity. You give them a scenario and they have to address how your body will maintain homeostasis in this extreme situation. And so they have to deal with a whole lot of different functions that we've addressed in the SE. So this is a great elaborate activity, and it extends it and it's relevant to the real world. And you have your evaluate activity, which I said you can alter the delivery method. This is one that you can use. It is on the Dropbox as well. Body system interaction scenario cards. They have different scenarios. They have to identify the interactions that are occurring and what body systems that are being utilized in those interactions, and explain them. And it goes into more detail, but definitely use that if you are interested, and it's available on the Dropbox. And again, just the same important reminders. Again, Star A accommodations are available. We're using the Edmodo group. This video will be uploaded to the Edmodo group. We have exemplar lessons, shift to resource Dropbox, have those resources available to you. There will not be any Q4 3-week or 6-week assessments. Definitely you want to use the mock assessment to go over just to gauge where your students are before you start assignment. And units 10, 11, 12, and 13 will be assessed in the Q4 summative as that final exam. I hope this biology unit 13 body systems course and overview has been useful and beneficial to you. If there's anything that I can do to support you, please give me a call or email me, and I will be glad to serve you. Thank you.